And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talking Live with Mei Sze. I hope all of you are having a great Sunday. It looks like a bright and sunny day, and the drought is back in Malaysia, or rather in the Klang Valley at this point of time. Well, we're going to wait for 15 people to join us in today's stream before we officially begin. So I would like to ask all of you to share this with your friends, with your family, and to be more specific, with females who are trying to have a baby, who are going through their own fertility journey, and to cancer survivors and cancer patients of reproductive age who are going through this journey as well. So please share this with them through WhatsApp, through Facebook, through Instagram. We would like more people to join today's show to ask questions and just be aware. Hi, Samuel. Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for continuously joining Talking Live with Mei Sze. I do hope that you guys can share this with your female friends or female relatives to help them, to get them to come on, tune in, because it's not easy to get my guest today to share. I actually had to beg her to join me. And I really wanted to talk about today's issue. So please get more people to join. I will wait for 15 people to officially begin the show. So let's get about one more person to join the show. It looks like we have 15 people already. So welcome to Talking Live with Mei Sze. Good afternoon. I hope all of you are having a great Sunday so far. And as you all know, here in Malaysia, things are slowly opening up and also around the world. But of course, at this point of time, it also means that we have to be safer. We have to continuously stay safe, practice the SOPs. And thank you so much to those of you who are joining us today. This today's topic is a topic very close to my heart about fertility, simply because it is something I myself am going through. If you want to find out more, you can check out my YouTube video, but I won't dive into that today. It's not about me, it's about my guest here. So, and also all about you guys who are joining, maybe to find out more about how you can improve your chances of getting pregnant. So, the whole thing about fertility is that it's a taboo topic amongst females sometimes, or amongst our parents, because they would always ask, aren't you going to have a child yet? I'm waiting for my grandchildren to come. And of course, you don't need to have cancer to have fertility problems. I know many females who are going through fertility problems and they are healthy, they are fine, they look great. It could be environmental factors such as stress, the food we eat, the air we breathe, especially in this nowadays our polluted environment. So these are certain factors that affect our fertility. Of course, I can't tell you more because I'm not a doctor. But like I mentioned, it's a two-part series. This is the first episode where I'm talking to a person going through it. So I would like to say a patient going through her own fertility journey. And the second one is actually from a doctor, my second episode in 2 weeks' time. So I hope you guys can join as well. I will be speaking to a doctor on fertility and cancer as well. So please do join the second session to ask questions. Today is a great time for you guys to ask questions as well. And now let me introduce my guest for today. She is someone I've known for almost 5 years since we started a young cancer survivors group. It felt like just yesterday that she told me she was pregnant, but now she's a proud mom of a 3.5-year-old son. She is a Hodgkins lymphoma survivor, 2 times Hodgkins lymphoma survivor, and she went through a bone marrow transplant. I've always admired our guest today, Nithiya. She's always smiling, always ready to help, and always there. So thank you, Nithiya, for joining today's show and sharing about something so candid, something so taboo in our society. Although it's something that all of us should be talking about, fertility. So thank you so much, Nithiya.
Thank you for having me, Mei Sze.
I'm so glad to have you on today's show. I see some of our friends here today. Hi, Wenyi. And to those of you who know Nithiya, this is a great time to share who For those who are going through fertility issues, your friends, your family, please share this with them. So you can put in your questions as well now, so we can pick them up towards the end of the show. I'll jump straight into the questions, Tia. So please share with us how you felt when you first found out you had Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, this is such a weird thing because when I first found out, I'm a person that we don't have anyone with cancer in our family, so it was completely a shock. And uh, truth be told, they didn't even say it directly to me because they just took an X-ray because I had shortness of breath and I was rushed to the ER and the doctors and the nurses, they were like, do you have people with cancer in your family? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I thought I came in for asthma or something like that. So it so they didn't want me to leave the hospital because obviously they saw this big mass near my heart, and they were like, okay, we got to keep you and check what is going on. We need to send you for CT scans, blah blah blah. The list is endless, right? And when I got to know, it was actually really weird because my CT scan result was out, and I was in the hospital bed, and no one had told me the result yet, but the nurse came and put the CT scan on the the tray thing that you
Yeah.
have in hospital bed, and I was like, let me just look at it, and I open it. I take out the paper, of course, because I'm not a doctor to see to directly go into the CT scan pictures. So I look at the paper, and it said inductive of lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I opened my phone as would anyone else, and I searched, and the first thing that you see is like lymphoma is a cancer, and I'm like, what is happening? Oh my goodness, I was alone at the hospital at that time because I asked everyone to go back home, and I didn't want and to disturb anyone and stuff like that because it was the weekend, and I was just so shocked, and I was bawling my eyes out. I was telling I was telling my husband at that time, we weren't even married yet. I messaged him. I said, this is what it says, and he immediately comes over. Although I say don't come, and I'm there like bawling my eyes out. I mean, that was the first reaction, right? I guess that's the first reaction that a lot of people may have,
Yeah.
but of course we've come a long way from all of that, and yeah, and here we are,
Wow.
and I'm fine.
I'm yeah, I know because I mean I see you all the time, and right here, right now, you're smiling at us again, and that's how she usually is, by the way, guys. So talking, I mean, like Hodgkin's lymphoma. Besides that, I'm gonna like jump straight into fertility. So
Mhm.
was fertility discussed with you before you proceeded with treatment?
The first time around, while it was mentioned by my hematologist, it wasn't something that I was so worried about. But maybe that was just because I was still very young. I think I was maybe about 24, 25, I think, at that time. I can't even remember. But at that time, it didn't really bother me much. I was just like, okay, it could impact my fertility, whatever. I mean, let's just move on. Like, I need chemo. I don't want to die. Like, I need to survive, right? So, while they did mention it, it wasn't something that I discussed in depth with them.
Hmm,
Hmm.
I see. Okay, so the actually my next question then was fertility on your mind at that point of time? So you answered probably not, right?
Yeah, yeah, not. It,
Okay.
it wasn't in my mind at all.
Okay.
Not close to getting married at that time, so I was
Yeah,
like,
24, 25. Just like get me fixed.
get me fixed. Exactly. That was what in
Right?
my mind. I need to get fixed. I need to move on.
Yeah.
I need to finish my degree. I need to get a job. I need to do things, right? So I'm just like,
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, I think I feel you. So
Yeah.
the next question I had is, from my understanding, you're a two-time Hodgkins lymphoma survivor. So were you trying for a child then when it hit you the second time around?
The second time around, I think it was even more difficult for me to accept because as a survivor, you know what you're going to go through the second time. It's a discussion I've had with my hematologist. I've spoken to them deeply about okay, if this happens again, what are we going to do? And I know what sort of treatment I have to go through if I were to get it a second time. So getting to know that I did get it for a second time was just, I think it was even life shattering, more life shattering than the first time around. It was pretty crazy. We were still not married, but I was already working. We were planning on getting married. We were thinking about it. We were already in the process of kind of uh, thinking about what we want to do, how we want to do it. So it wasn't really something that I was thinking about at that time to have a kid, and the same attitude from the first time around. I was like, okay, I just need to get fixed again. um, but this time my hematologist actually said to me, even more seriously, I would say, this
Hmm.
will definitely impact your fertility and so on, because for most people it does. But I was just adamant in getting my treatment started because I wanted to be fine. I needed to get back to my life, and that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. So I'm sorry to hear that, how you felt the second time around, but it's always more difficult because you're already in the swing of things, you've recovered,
Hmm.
and when it hits you a second time, it always comes as a shock.
Hmm.
I mean, based not based on experience, but seeing people around us, going
Hmm.
through it. So then, would you say after your second treatment, how did you then resorted to having a child? Did you try naturally at first? And if you did, for how long?
Right. So we got married a few years ago, and after that, I mean, we've always wanted to have our own family, as do a lot of people that I know. And we've talked about it way back before getting married, before getting cancer and stuff. We've always been like, oh, okay, we want this many kids, we want this amount of boys, this amount of girls, whatever, right? And you even sometimes go through the phase of like trying to think of a name for your kids and future kids. So after getting married, the question was kind of like really starting to come in from people, while not from my closest people, because obviously they know what I'm going through. The questions from a lot of other people was quite stressful, and I'm sure other couples that go through that would understand that too. And
Yeah.
we know, uh, right? So
Yes.
we know we know what the situation is. So we didn't try naturally because it was just not an option for me personally. So no, we didn't try naturally, but we knew we wanted to have children. So we were speaking to a lot of gynecologists and obstetricians and so on, and seeing what option was best for us. And eventually, we settled on doing the IVF.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So you didn't try naturally, and
No,
because of
I
your
mean,
condition.
yeah, I mean, of course, by trying naturally, do we just mean like going on with life as usual? Yeah, we were going on with our life, but we knew that we knew what the result would be,
Hmm.
right? We knew that it was not going to happen for
So
us.
you cut to the chase
Yeah,
and found
exactly.
the solution to that, and
Right,
that was IVS.
right.
IVF. So that was what made you decide on IVF.
Hmm.
You did not even go through IUI before
No.
that, just straight to IVF, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So what? So would you do IVF a second time? And is that still your only option?
At the moment, for me, it is still my only option because, because of my ovaries status and stuff. So that is my only option at the moment. Would I do IVF again? I mean, I have a beautiful 3.5-year-old son. He is super active. If you asked me this question like 2 years ago, I would have said yes, let's do it. I'm all up to go through it again because I mean going through IVF is difficult. The whole process is long. It's not just long, it's costly, and on top of all of that, the emotional roller coaster that comes with going through an IVF is quite immense, right? So, if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said yes, absolutely. But now with COVID and everything,
And an active 3.5 year old son.
correct. I'm not sure. I mean, we talk about it. We are still thinking about it. We're still actively talking about it towards uh, whether we want to do it or not. So it's something that I have not decided yet. So we still actively discuss about it though.
Okay. So it's still in progress, WIP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm nearing to my last question. So for the audience, please put in your questions or anything you want us to actually address or talk about. So bring it up, and Nithiya will try her best to answer your questions. And if I do know the answer to that, I will try to help her. So my final question for you, Nithiya, is what would your advice be for cancer survivors of reproductive age who want to have children?
Right. Actually, I thought long about this and I even wrote some because I don't want to miss this because I feel like this is such an important thing and it's something that I wish I knew before, right? For cancer survivors, I would say that you're not alone. It's a difficult time. It's a difficult thing to go through, but you're not alone in this. Speak to your loved ones about it. Tell them what you feel. Talk to them. They're going to be really difficult conversations, but talk to them about it. After then, you are ready, or if you want to, speak to your gynecologist. They would be the best people to tell you what your options are, and if you choose to go through the process, then trust your gynecologist and make sure that you don't go to like um, dodgy fertility clinics or whatever. Make sure that you do your research. Make sure to check their credentials. There are websites like the National Specialist Registry, the Doctor Registry. You can confirm their qualifications, right? So always check their credibility, read reviews, talk to your friends if they have gone through similar experiences, and see if they could recommend some places that you could actually speak about this, and see what your options are, because your options may not be the same as mine. Your options may be different considering your situation, your test results, and so on. So that would be my advice to cancer survivors. And to everyone else, I would say if you have the resources to freeze your eggs or sperms, go ahead and do it. And that would be like an insurance, for your
Yeah.
fertility journey. Also, another thing that I want to say is maybe we as a community could really stop asking couples if they're having a child, or if they plan to have more children, or if they whether they want to or they can. Let's try to stop asking that, because it's while it's easy to ask, the answer to that question may have more pain that than we could ever imagine. So let's try to be more mindful when we ask these type of questions, and not ask people directly. Because obviously, if you're close enough to them, you would know the answer to that question already, and you don't even need to ask. But if you're not so close to someone, let's refrain from asking this question.
That's such great advice. Thank you. I so agree.
Yeah,
I,
because we've
I
had that. I
totally
mean, we've
agree.
had many people asking us that, right? So, and it's easy for people to ask, but for us to answer, we're like,
Yep.
ugh.
And also the emotions that
Mhm.
comes with answering that question.
Right,
I
exactly.
I completely agree with you. Thanks a lot, Nithiya, for actually really great advice. I cannot. I'm probably going to record this and put this up on stories later. But
Mhm.
I think we'll jump straight to the questions. I think there are a few questions. I'll try to ask not to kind of like collate the questions from one person and try to ask it all together. Um, so William Tenggari, who is from Indonesia, he asked, which hospital do you go to and the name of your doctor?
Is that even okay for me to say, or
You
it's
can
fine?
say which, I mean, the name of your hospital and also
Okay.
who, yeah, but I think it's probably a team of doctors in the hospital, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, at the beginning, my most of my discussions, most of my treatments, and so on were in Hospital Ampang, which is a government hospital.
Mhm.
And then onwards, I moved to fertility wise. Fertility wise, I spoke to KL Fertility Clinic, and then I was also referred to Damai Hospital, which is in Jalan Ipoh, and that is where I had all of my IVF
I see.
processes.
Okay. William also had a question about costings, but you went through to a government hospital, right? So,
For my cancer, yes. While cost isn't so high in the government hospital, if you do have concerns, then speak to the welfare department
mhm.
in the hospital. Even in government hospital, they still have some some assistance for finances if people cannot afford it. I mean, at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time,
that's true.
actually, I had insurance, so it's not like I could have
Yeah.
gone private, but my treatment has already started in Hospital Ampang, and I felt really taken care of. My hematologists were great, so I didn't feel the need to go to another hospital. So I stayed, and my insurance paid for all of my treatment in the uh, government hospital too.
That's good to hear. So Samuel asked, "Did you feel depressed when you found out you had cancer, and which stage of lymphoma did you have?"
That's a good question. I'll answer the second one first because that's easier. I was stage 3B. So that's pretty bad. But
Okay.
when I got to know, I wasn't clinically depressed. I wasn't diagnosed for depression, but I did go through my cycle of grief. Being really sad,
Yes.
being really angry, being in denial, and the whole spectrum. I went through all of it.
Okay.
There were
But you
many
weren't
dark
depressed.
days. No, not exactly depressed. I mean, I was really sad, but I wouldn't say I was depressed simply because I wasn't diagnosed with it. I don't want to say something
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
right. So
Okay.
yeah.
And he also had questions about how you overcame the disease and how you were motivated to overcome it.
Well, how do I? Oh, how was I motivated? I guess I was just like. wanting to get better, wanting to get back to my old life. Although, truth be told, it isn't really your exact previous life. Life after cancer is certainly different than what you have lived before. But for me, I just wanted to get better. Maybe it was just like a personal, personal
Motivation.
motivation, personal attitude. And I'm also really grateful I had a lot of amazing support from my family. They were there for me throughout all of my treatments, from my food requirements. So, they were really strong for me too. And I felt like I needed to get better for them as well.
So talking about food, Samuel actually had a question on food. Any suitable food to eat to overcome the disease? Or what types of food did you eat?
Um, I would say believe in eating whole foods. Try
Mm,
your best to
agree.
avoid processed foods. I used to eat a lot of processed foods before. I'm guilty of it. And I'm embarrassed to say it, but I think people need to hear it, right? Like our journey with food is never ending. We continue to eat until like forever. So it's
Especially
okay to
as
learn.
Malaysians.
Right. So, and we love food. Food is so abundant here, right? So, I used to eat so much of like instant noodles and fast
Oh,
food
wow.
burgers and stuff. And I just stopped all of it. I just stopped all of it when I was diagnosed. Um, Now I may have, if I feel like it, like maybe once in like 2, 3 months, something like
It's like
that.
a
I
cheat
may,
meal.
yeah, so I let myself do it, but all other times I try to eat as clean as possible.
Mm,
Balanced meal. That is the most important thing. Eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, eat a balanced meal. That is what I believe.
agreed. So Miss Lee says she agrees to get yourself fixed and to move on because that's a top priority for a cancer patient. She says fertility doesn't really matter. That's interesting. Can always adopt a child. True. And she says you have an amazing personality.
Oh, thank you. And that's true. My husband and I, we are actually talking about adoption at the moment. We're still discussing. Let's see if it's the right option for us and if it works out. Maisie will
Good
definitely
luck.
know. If
Good luck.
if thank you, thank you.
So Eric asks, how did you find out about your cancer and how did you manage to pay for your treatment? Okay, that question is answered.
Mhm.
What's your treatment like? So I think you mentioned how you found out about your cancer. So
Mhm.
maybe you can address like what are your treatments like?
Mhm. Right. So the first time around, I had 6 cycles of chemotherapy, and the second time around, I had, I think, 3 or 4 cycles of stronger chemotherapy, and then bone marrow transplant, and then radiotherapy.
So it's because of the chemotherapy and radiotherapy that affected your ovaries, right?
For me, I would say it's because of the chemo and the transplant, not
I
the
see
radio,
the
because my
transplant.
radio was on my chest and it wasn't
In
covering
your
my
okay,
lower part. Mhm.
okay, okay. And I think Madam Yo says she admires your happy disposition and she's sure it has helped you heal better, which I agree.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank
and
you.
William also had a question. He asked whether there is differences in the quality of doctors in public and private hospitals. I don't think there is. Yeah.
That's a good question, and I agree with Macy actually. I don't think there is such a big disparity
Yeah.
between private and government. I would say go to where you feel most comfortable. Make sure that you trust your practitioner. You need to be able to
Mm,
know what they're saying is right for you, that they have your best interests at heart. And if you think that is the case, go ahead. Whether it be in the government or in private sector. If you can afford private sector, if you have insurance, go for it. If you can't, in Malaysia, the government hospitals are pretty good. I would say the specialists are really knowledgeable too. So between government and private, I think it really depends on your choice.
Yes, I agree. And also your finances, the
Correct.
means, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I'll take one last question. Samuel asks whether you need a medical checkup every year.
Right. So I do have a yearly checkup with my hematologist, and while we don't do a full body checkup, we do have some basic blood tests that we go through. But as a cancer survivor, I think we are always on high alert if something is
Yes,
different with our body. So we are very body aware. We know what's going on in parts of our body. We try to be very very alert if
alert.
there's any
Yeah.
change, and if there's any changes, then you should be seeing your doctor. Don't wait until your next appointment.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So, to all of you watching, it's Lymphoma Awareness Month this month. That's why I had two episodes on lymphoma, the last one with CK and this one with Nithiya. I hope that you guys are more aware of Hodgkin's lymphoma and non Hodgkin's lymphoma. There are two different types of lymphoma. And uh, we are going to have a two-part episode on fertility as well this month, which is the first episode being this one and the next episode with a doctor on cancer and fertility. And of course, you do not need to be a cancer survivor or a cancer patient to talk about fertility. I am trying to make this more mainstream so people can talk about it. Like what Nithiya said, she is trying to ask the community to not ask, just blatantly ask whether when a couple is gonna have a child, or when the couple is gonna expand their family. Because, like I said, it doesn't take a cancer patient or survivor to have fertility issues. Everyone, quite a few people I know are having this issue, and we as females shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about it or even to share about it. So, for those of you who are watching this, please try not to put someone in a difficult position to answer that question. In their own time, I'm sure everyone would have a child, or if they choose not to have, it is also their choice. So, yes, join us in 2 weeks' time as I speak to Dr. Chong from TMC on cancer and fertility. So, I hope to see all of you soon then. And thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday, for staying safe. Please stay safe, everyone. And thank you so much, Nithiya, for joining us. You've shared so truthfully, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Emily, Samuel, Eric, all of you for joining, and Judy, even. Thank you so much. Bye. See you in 2 weeks' time.